All right. Hold up. Yo, I was like, yo, I kept thinking like, bro,
I'm
start.
like, bro, what are you doing, man? Amateur hour.
It wouldn't stop, bro. Restream. What are we doing, baby? Or do we have to get a whole new platform now? Come on now. What's going on? That was crazy. But hello, audience. How we doing tonight? Hope you feeling fresh, funky, and groovy. My name is Hancho. This is Fourth in Fantasy, and this is my guy.
Siriaco, call me Rocco if you're in the streets with
Hey,
me.
where were the place of my boy Rocco?
We are a fantasy football podcast for Dynasty Sickos by Dynasty Sickos. And today, Ben is welcome.
We got Mr. Big Ben from Dynasty Gambit. How you feeling, my G?
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's gonna be a fun one. It's been a little bit of a long time coming to join on with you guys, and looking forward to it. Talking NFC West. I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't be on for the NFC North episode because I know that was a little bit ago, and I know you guys were trying to get that out there. I am excited to be talking about a former NFC North quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who I'm wearing the jersey of my childhood quarterback tonight. But it's going to be a fun one. There's going to be a lot to talk about with Stafford himself and a lot to talk about with the other parts of the NFC West.
Yeah, and before we get into the nitty gritty, why don't you give the audience just a little backstory on yourself and how you came upon this wonderful fantasy football community that we now do?
Absolutely. And so I was actually talking about this a couple days ago. I've been playing fantasy for about 13 years and Dynasty for the last 4. But sometime around when paternity, after the birth of my first daughter, and I was looking for time, looking for things to do with my time. And, for me, by trade, I'm a physical therapist, and I've always enjoyed football, fantasy football, and sports injuries. And, it's one of those things where I wanted to get into content creation. And so decided to start up kind of our smaller brand at that point, the Super Dynasty Bros, with my co-host, Austin Jacobson. And now we have the Dynasty Gambit with FSAN, or Fantasy Sports Advice Network. So we've been excited to really open up our brand, and a lot of what we're focusing on is Dynasty game theory. Really, not only taking some of the player takes that we really love to get into, but also how do you apply that to the game theory of being able to win your leagues. And that's what really we want to do for our listeners.
And you know what I thought that I had the other day? I was like, the whole content creation related to fantasy football has basically ballooned, of where we're having so much content out there, and I love that. I love just where the fantasy football community is, and just how everyone just wants to grow with each other, tap in with each other, support each other. Love what y'all do over there at Dynasty Gambit. I love the insights that y'all have. One thing that people always forget in this whole space is that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay. It's not like, don't get me wrong. I love to say when I'm right, but when it's okay to admit when you're wrong. It's okay to not, when you have a bad take, good take. So in this whole space, people love to think just because you have a show, you always feel like your opinion is above theirs. Nah. Maybe people care just a little bit more than mine than yours, but nevertheless, we all got our own opinions and tastes. So that being said, with the nitty gritty, let's talk about some quarterbacks. Which, when I was looking at the whole landscape of the NFC West, I was like, and just of their overall 2024 performance, it wasn't very sexy, except for Mr. Dick Hammer himself, Sam Darnold, who was the only quarterback to go over 4,000 yards. But let's start off with
another team.
Let's start. Oh, hey, listen. Now, let's start with the Arizona Cardinals, right? With Mr. Kyler Murray. Now, I'm just going to read off of his 2024 stats. He had 68.8% completion rate, 3,852 passing yards, 21 passing TDs, 11 interceptions to go along with 572 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. But the one stat that I don't like, he had 5 fumbles and lost 3. Not sexy, not extravagant, not what I like to see. He finished in 2024 QB 10, which was quite surprising. But hey, he had a top 10 finish, which because of his rushing upside, I feel like is his baseline for the most part. But I also feel like last year he was a dark horse for me to be QB1. That tape very much went into the fucking toilet. But how we how do we feel about Kyler Murray in 2025? I'll let you go first, Ben.
Yeah, so I think you just nailed it on the head right there with his rushing upside being part of the stability that gives him QB1 upside any year. When looking back at the passing stats last year, a lot of games with just one passing touchdown and under 200 yards passing, but he still somehow made it out of 2024 as the QB10, like you just said, finishing just behind Dick Hammer in Sam Darnold. So it was definitely tough to watch because game to game, you didn't know what you were getting from Kyler Murray. And I think there's going to be someone that we're going to be talking about later that was directly impacted by the way the offense was ran. And I think Drew Petzing is going to have to really adjust his offensive schemes next year if he wants to not be on the hot seat. And we're going to see what happens in Arizona.
Rocco, what is your take on Kyler Murray and how do you feel about him in 2025?
I feel like as a guy that has quite a bit of Kyler Murray on teams, it always feels like it's a roller coaster ride. And it always feels like I'm searching for consistency with him. But it's crazy, without Chev and you pointing out to me that he had a top 10 finish, I would have thought he was a mid QB2, just having been on the ride with him all season. I worry about him because, he had, I think, 800 yards in his second year. And ever since he blew his knee out, he hasn't even come close to, getting those type of numbers. And I think that was what truly unlocked him and what made him, the belle of the ball, so to speak, for a lot of people with his Konami upside. And their offense is just kind of boring. I mean, they're very reliant on James Conner, and they're talking about getting Trey Benson involved more. They were very specific how they used Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think it was to his, I don't think it maximized Marvin Harrison Jr. And they had a lot of trouble in the red zone. So I think if they can turn around their offensive play call and punch a few more of those touchdowns in the red zone, it could be a little bit up for him. I was wondering what just happened. I thought my internet went out. But as far as Kyler Murray, I feel like bottom line, I would rather have him as my QB2 because if I was counting on him weekly as my QB1, I'd be pulling my hair out. That's kind of where I stand with him. I think he's a fine QB2, and he's affordable as a QB2. But if you're looking for any more, you'd probably be left wanting.
And I'm going to be on, once again, if the audience remembers, he was one of the players that I was like, I'm totally out on now in 2025, just because I'm tired of waiting for that next level from Kyler Murray, right? I want him, to me, should consistently just be in that top 5 just off of potential. Now, some might say it's his height because shorter quarterbacks do have a harder time seeing over the middle, right? Now, once again, like Ben pointed out, if they can't get it going, if Petzing can't get it going, honestly, heads might start to roll if after this year. I want to really hope that Kyler Murray can turn it around this year. Fingers crossed. There's no reason why Trey McBride had the very low touchdowns that he had last year. No reason for that. And if Marvin Harrison stays healthy, Yes, he's put on some muscle. Wonderful. I'm one of the people who were very happy that he put on some mass. Nevertheless, he needs to go out there, stay healthy, and show it. Right? He needs to go out and say, and we seen Malik Neighbors go out there and listen, Marvin Harrison. If you watch our content, if you ever end up watching our content, I just want you to know that I'm rooting for you, my G, and I need you to do something because I'm one of those people who's standing on the goddamn hill for you, my boy. I'm
Not
telling you.
anymore.
I've been telling people, hey, listen. Okay, question. So with Kyler Murray, right? Now I have him, I think, on once again, I'm in like 40 plus leagues. Don't judge me. And now I think I have him on maybe 2 or 3 of my leagues. And he is my QB1. I believe on the 2 others, he is my QB2. If you had Kyler Murray, would you just be trying to hold on and thinking that you'll be okay for the season, or are you trying to use Murray to upgrade your quarterback situation?
I think in that instance, if he's my QB2, I'm probably holding. I think he offers a safe floor as your QB2, being able to have the rushing upside that we talked about earlier. And actually, I think Rocco hit it on the head earlier with his rushing upside decreasing ever since he had the ACL injury. Last year, which is actually his first full season off of the ACL. So essentially, that was the year that he was supposed to come back, and he did, being QB10. But I'm interested to see if they do run him on the ground more this year. Again, stronger, another full off season after the injury, and be able to open up the offense in that way. The issue I see is that Drew Petzing has really leaned into James Conner and Trey McBride as their weapons, and I don't know that he wants to change that going forward. Now, again, I think his name is on the hot seat because the misuse of Marvin Harrison last year was awful. I think Marvin Harrison had an okay to good rookie season. It was obviously overshadowed by 3 to 4 other rookie receivers, mainly because of the situation that he's in, right? I think that offensive scheme does not open itself up when he was sent on straight routes and wasn't able to really get any separation from the DBs. And so he was getting locked up. I think this season, hopefully, if they can unlock Marvin Harrison Jr., I think that will speak to a lot of progression for Kyler Murray as well.
And our boy Crispy says Kyler is a hold because he'll produce low end QB1, and he's not worth that on the market. And I can, and you know, and this is the. Go ahead.
No, I said that's the key. You know, it's all about price in the marketplace. But I kind of wanted to dive into one of Ben's strengths in this space, because he's a PT and he's my go-to injury guy. Him and Jeff Mueller, but Jeff Mueller leaves me on red, so Ben is my guy. Do you think now that he's a couple years off of that injury, his second, like you said, his second full season off of that injury, do you think that would lead to him being able to rush more?
If the offensive scheme wants him to focus on that, and he really puts it, there's no excuse on the injury at this point. He's had enough time. I think last season would have also been enough time after the injury, since his injury was the end of 2022, that he could have came back last year potentially and put more on the ground. But we'll see what happens with Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing. They really, really need to shake things up this year for the Cardinals, because last year to me was a failure. I mean, they ended up last in the division, right? I mean, you had to consider 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks were up there. And so to me, it's a failure for these guys. They got to change something up. I think they got to open up the running game for Kyler again, and I think they have to get the ball to Marvin Harrison.
And once again, shout out to our boy Roach for the wonderful stats here. And while we're looking at it, he projects Kyler Murray to, and these are just projected stats, to have anywhere between 3,800 to 4,000 passing yards. Woo woo. I kind of like that. And then to have 25 to 28 passing TDs, 10 to 12 interceptions, 500 to 600 rushing yards, 4 to 5 rushing touchdowns. And he says why Murray's dual threat ability drives elite fantasy value, and that's where I agree with him. That's where you would hope. That's where high end Kyler Murray production would come from. If he can maximize his rushing ability, that's where he can start to flirt more with that top 5 finish. But then you got just go ahead, Rocco. So
my bad. The one thing that I do like about Kyler Murray, as a runner, he's pretty conservative as a runner. He knows like when to get down. I think part of that, being a former baseball player, he kind of knows how to slide. So I feel comfortable with his ability to, avoid hits for the most part. He's kind of like a poor man's Lamar in that respect. They, how they avoid contact. They're not like Cam Newton trying to truck people, every single down. If he did, he'd be out the league pretty quickly.
All right. Now let's move on to our next quarterback. And I think this one will be a fun one. Mr. Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers. In 2024, he had 65.9 completion percentage, 3,684 passing yards, 20 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Then to go along with 323 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, finishing QB 14 after finishing QB 6 in 2023. I do have Brock Purdy once again. I like to diversify, so I do have Brock Purdy on a few of my leagues just because he is young enough to build in Dynasty. Redraft wise, I think he's lower on my totem pole, but Dynasty wise, I think with also getting the contract, he's good. But Brock Purdy, he's not somebody I'm head over heels about having as my quarterback. Do I hope he can get back to that productive 2023? Sure, but right now it's not looking too sexy. You got Ayuk coming back from off an injury. You got Juwan Jennings dealing with the injury. Jacob Cowan dealing with the injury. Shoot, goddamn, I'm almost. Who's not injured at this goddamn point except for Mr. Kittle and McCaffrey's holding on, and you are praying that his legs hold up, right? So there's a lot, even with the great Kyle Shanahan as their play caller, I feel like there's a lot of risky play. And once again, big dogs, you know what I'm saying? It really depends on your risk tolerance and how you feel about their offense. But Ben, how are you feeling about Brock Purdy in 2025 in Dynasty?
I think you just hit everything that I was going to touch on with all of his weapons being injured. Now, I guess the question at this point is with camp and some of these guys going down like Juwan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall's coming back. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to be good to go for the start of the season and be totally fine. But I think the biggest weapon that he's getting back is Christian McCaffrey, right? And at that point, that's going to really open up the offense. It's going to pull a lot of the defense away from Kittle, away from Pearsall, away from other weapons. And then, I really am loving the look on some of the other weapons coming back, like Brandon Ayuk, which we're going to have to see how he progresses through the start of the season with the injury. But I think he's going to hit a stride midseason. And I think Brock Purdy, I have a bet with somebody in the chat, Dynasty Dog Mike. He is going to end up in the QB 12 or better range this year. He's going to be a QB 1. To me, he's getting all of that back. The 49ers are going to be in contention again to compete and potentially get to the Super Bowl again this year. I hope not, but that's where I see it happening.
The 49ers? The 49ers this year? Yeah, I don't know if I can fuck with that take, my boy. I don't know if
you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you
hear me? Yeah. I can't fuck with that tape, my boy. I don't like that. Ben's gonna come back. He gonna come back and flip back. We're all having technical issues today, and we're gonna get through it, my baby.
But, it's all good.
Rocco, how do you feel about Brock Purdy in 2025? I know you're still one of the believers of Purdy.
I love Purdy, and what's crazy is that I wouldn't mind having him as a QB1, to be perfectly honest with you, because I absolutely think he could. I mean, like Ben said, he finished as
Can you hear me
QB
now?
12. I can hear you. I heard your points. Good points. Excellent points. Some would say the best points. I was just kind of building up off of what you were talking about. As far as, everything went wrong for him last year, and he still finished as QB 12 or QB 13, just depending on your scoring setting. And I don't think it could be much worse. I think you got George Kittle, who looks to me like an extreme value. I believe he's my favorite to be tight end 1 in the entire league. He had 1,100 yards last year, and I think he did that on 90 targets. So that needs to go up. And like we talked in the past podcast, they've been bringing in some blocking type tight ends to free him up to get into more routes. Like Ben said, Pearsall is coming back. So I don't. Ayuk will be back eventually, we hope. So I don't see how it could be much worse. And the thing about Brock Purdy that I love about him is he lifts up the weapons he does have. He put damn near 1,000 yards on Jawan Jennings, who's been a blocking wide receiver his whole career. So that just goes to show you that whoever's out there, whether it be Cowing, whether it be Jennings, whether it be Pearsall, you're going to get it with Kittle. It doesn't matter who he has out there, because what he does have is the talent to move the ball, to get rid of the ball quickly and efficiently, and to keep the offense on track. And if they got Kittle and they got CMC, that's all I need to know.
And Ben, I'll let you go since you got cut out last time before we move on to the next quarterback. Continue what you were saying about Purdy.
I'm back, guys. So, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what was going on here. But yeah, I think Purdy's going to get back to the QB1 conversation next year. He was QB 14 with all of his repetition left, right? And so he gets him back, one of his biggest weapons, and we're looking at again another Super Bowl potential year for him.
Ben, your microphone, it feels like it's going in and out. But
hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening here, but yeah, I just see a plus QB 1 year for Purdy here. I'm projecting somewhere between QB 10 and QB 12 range.
Okay. I like that as a good baseline too. I think high end wise, he could. Well, that's once again health wise, right? Everything depends on health. But
yes,
and
not Purdy, but all the weapons around him.
Yeah, things around him. I think Purdy will have a healthy year, but the overall offense needs to be good, right?
100%. But I think it really runs through Christian McCaffrey. And I think that will really, really be the piece that pushes Purdy back to being in the QB1 conversation.
Yeah. And the thing I love about Purdy the most is that Week 17 game with him and your Detroit Lions. Between him and Jared Goff, I had Purdy and I had Jared Goff as my quarterbacks, and I was down about 80 points. And God damn it, those son of bitches didn't win me a chip.
And I'm not buying.
I'm bought in.
Personally, I'm not buying Purdy, but if I do have Purdy, I'm holding. And I'm not panicking just because the players around him hurting. I feel like at this point you ride with
Get Mike off of here.
It's hilarious. But last
damn
thought,
Campbell.
Let's look at Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford so we can move over to the running backs. Sam Darnold, funny to say, had the most passing yards, once again, as I stated, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFC West, going for 4,319 yards. He had 35 passing touchdowns. Also led the NFC West in passing touchdowns. 12 interceptions. And then you're not really thinking for Darnold with his rushing upside. So you're really, if in 4-point passing touchdowns, he's probably not as desired as other quarterbacks. But then again, he threw for 35. So that's pretty good. Now, just to throw out a fact or a stat or however you feel about it, 2024 was literally Sam Darnold's only season ever being in the top 10. And I mean, even coming close to it. Other years, he was like QB 55, QB 40, QB 30, QB like bad stats. So some say maybe it was just because of the Minnesota offense that was made Sam Darnold look good. He had Justin Jefferson. He had Addison. He had a decent running game. He had Hawkinson toward the end, mid to end of the year, right? And then a great play caller. They said that helped Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold was also a first-round quarterback, but we also seen other first-round quarterbacks suck. So was it scheme or was it the player? Was it scheme or was it the player?
I'm gonna put it on scheme, man. He was with the Jets, which is just where quarterbacks go to die. Hopefully that's not Justin Fields this year. And also in Carolina, right? Like two very dysfunctional offenses and organizations for a quarterback to go into. I mean, we saw what happened with Zach Wilson, which that was just a bad project right there with the Jets. But I think Darnold is much better than we give him credit for. But if I mean, I've been basically getting him in the 9th round in startups, and I've been able to, I was just telling Huncho before the show, I've been able to basically fill up my starting roster in a startup and then take Sam Darnold as my QB2 or potentially QB3 in the 9th or 10th round. And I'm good with that, man. I don't want that ADP to creep up any higher, but I think he's going to be okay in the Seahawks offense. I think we were projecting somewhere like QB 15 range.
I feel better with him since the Seahawks, because I think the Seahawks are going to be a run first team. I'm not as high, but I feel like he's majority of my QB2, QB3. Right. You're fucked. Hold on, I gotta bring my mic over here. Fucked. Okay. Go make a trade right now. Expeditiously, my boy. Trade your 2026 and move retool his ass. Literally. Or retool. So listen, hear me out and hear me well. But Sam Darnold, I think you can't say that.
Crispy's got it right, by the way.
Well, let's see. Let's put those crispy comments up here. The Panthers missed on Baker and Darnold. Right. How the fuck did you do that? First off, that's more on the Carolina Panthers as an organization. Let's talk, but let's not even get on the Cleveland Browns. Let's not even get on their ass.
See how they signed Tyler Huntley?
Right, let's get all this out of them. Yeah, I did.
It was like somebody was commenting like they're just collecting all the Pokemon at this point. Just got to catch all the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. So with Sam Darnold, right? Are you buying, holding, or selling?
I'm not buying. And if I'm a contending team this year, I'm not selling. I think if you are a team that is looking to either retool or rebuild, potentially waiting until he has like his coup de grace game for the Seattle Seahawks, then you sell him for hopefully a first plus. But I don't know that you're gonna possibly get him that for him in season. It's got to be off of a good game, and then I'm probably holding here.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold was fucking 14-1, and I couldn't sell Sam Darnold to anybody because everybody saw the bottom dropping out sooner or later. Everybody knows that he's the fucking dick hammer and that he was scheme driven and that it's just a matter of time before it's Jalen Milroe time. You know, the crowds will be calling for it the first time he starts seeing those ghosts, diving into the ground, with anybody within 10 yards of him and blowing games down the stretch. So yeah, I think that it's gonna end badly for him in Seattle. If I have him, like Ben said, Ben's Dynasty Gambit. That's why he has, the best advice on, Dynasty strategies. But that's exactly what I would do if I had him. I fucked up, sorry, and I'm holding until he has a game where I can sell him to a truly thirsty QB team. And until then, I'll let him rot because, if you're not giving me a strong second plus or first round pick, based on where he was going in drafts, then I'll let him collect dust on the bottom of my team because I know in season, as long as he doesn't get hurt or he just plays like he's always played his entire career up until last year, then I'll have a selling opportunity at some point.
And before we move on to Matthew Stafford, I think as a stash, I think one of you touched on it. Jalen Milroy, I think where he's actually had looked pretty decent in camp, and where people really talked about him as a passer, and not him being that well.
Crispy's out here you're giving cuss words, man.
Hey, listen,
saying the word Adam Gase.
Wait, isn't that a guy that did this?
I'm telling you, that boy,
he did meth before a press conference and it was like his eyes were doing all that crazy shit.
He's gonna give people some PTSD.
The best GIF was they had the taco going across the screen. His eyes were just following the taco wherever it would go. You ever saw that one?
Nah,
I think I remember. Yeah.
I'm about to bring it back.
Man.
I'm gonna plug that in the Discord.
But
good thing with being old, I remember shit.
I feel like I have my shares here and there, here and somewhere. I don't probably have as much as I want to, just because I went Shador a shit ton when it came to rookie quarterbacks, because I liked Shador over Jalen Milroy. But I think if they let him sit, if they let him really just develop behind Darnold, if everything doesn't go to shit and Darnold doesn't look piss poor, and they don't have to throw him in there, I think the situation will work out for Jalen, and I don't mind.
What I'm going to say right now is Taysom Hill is my favorite player of all time, and Clint Kubiak had an amazing package, no diddy, for Taysom Hill, which made Taysom Hill like fantasy gold for several games. Like basically when he was healthy, he was a damn near a tight end one, and I think he had like a tight end one overall week. So I wonder if he's got something up his sleeve with Milroy until he fully takes over fully takes over that QB role.
Agreed.
Yeah, no. I don't have enough Milroy, man. I'm kind of sad about it because I don't even know if I have more than just one share.
Oh, after that tier where like a Higgins, Trey Harris, guys of that ilk fell off, like middle to late second, like Milroy was my auto select. Because if he hits, I mean, you're looking at another Jalen Hurts.
Last but not least, the quarterback that's been talked about quite heavily recently just because his back is fucked. Mr. Matthew Stafford, go Dogs, one of my favorite quarterbacks to really do it and one of the livest arms that we've seen in the NFL. He's dealing with, I believe, 2 disc injuries in his back currently. Doesn't sound great, but also the Rams doesn't sound too concerned. Ben, could you just talk a little bit more on this injury for Matthew Stafford and for the audience?
Absolutely.
Should we be worried? Are you fading Matthew Stafford?
I am fading Matthew Stafford, and I'll get into this is where I really want to get into it because I've been having a lot of discussion in our Discord. Actually, I just saw this morning somebody posted about Matthew Stafford having to get an epidural to be able to help with some of the pain management right now. We're throwing this man on a football field. He is playing American tackle football with herniated discs that he's having to have an epidural for. When your pain is that bad, that epidural lasts 3 months, possibly more. But you're going to be getting into a long season, expecting to play 17 games. And he's expected to play week 1, and I feel confident he might be able to do that. But I'm not holding the bag on him to play 17 games this season, and I'm worried mainly about Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams. I think Puka Nacua will get his, depending on who's playing. No, to me, it's not dependent on the quarterback. I think with the way he plays, he's got the higher upside compared to the other weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But this is concerning. And from my perspective as a PT, I don't recommend anybody to play American tackle football when they are through the process of dealing with a pretty severe injury the way that he is. And this is not the first time that he's dealt with a back injury. Back in 2019, he dealt with, actually it was 2018 that he played the rest of the season, knowing I think 7 games or so that he had fractures in his thoracic spine. And then ended up having to miss 8 games the following season in 2019 because of more fractures in the spine. And then ended up in 2022 with the Rams having to be put on the concussion protocol for a spinal cord contusion. And so at least sat out 4 games with that, from my knowledge. But this is very concerning for a 37-year-old quarterback. If we're talking, and for those younger guys, they're not going to get as those herniated discs that we're worried about with Stafford. If they're dealing with a muscle strain, that's fine. That's one thing. But this is extremely concerning for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in your opinion, you think he is fucked?
Yeah, I don't feel safe with him being able to carry your team. I'm not touching anywhere in redraft. One, I mean, you shouldn't be touching him in redraft anyway. No Diddy. But
no Diddy, no.
In Dynasty, I sadly have him in a couple leagues as my QB2, and I'm kind of scared shitless at this point entering the season. I thought that maybe I'd be able to kind of compete at this point, but I'm trying to figure out some other options, and I don't feel safe right now.
He was people's last hope. Well, not want to say last hope, but that he was people's strategy. You felt like you could wait longer because Matthew Stafford was there.
Him and Gino, yeah.
You felt like you could wait now, and I always hate this kind of type of shit because it's like injuries so early in the season can dictate how your season your fantasy season can go so quickly, right? But with Matthew Stafford, I'm still trying to hold on. Once again, go Dogs. I'm a hope that I think things start well. They might not end well, just depending on how bad his back deteriorates over the course of the season. But yeah, that's going to be something that we have to monitor. Hopefully my shares of Devontae Adams aren't in jeopardy and things are still sexy, groovy, just how I like it. Now, let's move over. Before we move over to the running backs, rank the quarterbacks in the NFC West from who has the last ranked quarterback in the NFC West, do you think, Ben? Since you're the guest, we'll let you go.
You're asking me to give my full rankings at this point.
Yes. Who's your last place?
Who's my last
quarterback
place
in the NFC West?
I gotta go. If I'm projecting where I am with Stafford, I'm gonna go Stafford as last place. And he actually, he finished last season, right? He was the QB 19 last year, playing through 16 games still. So I'm not feeling great about it. And I hate to say it because Stafford again is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time for my team. But it's time to hang him up, man.
Mm-hmm. And then third quarterback.
Let's go. I'm going to go Sam Darnold here. Right? I think we're going to see regression. I don't think it's going to be so far off the planet that Rocco wants to see. but I do think that he's going to be probably finish third in the division.
Second quarterback in the NFC West.
This is where it's going to get real spicy.
Uh-huh.
Let's go Kyler Murray.
And then number one,
leading Brock Purdy.
Mr. Brock Purdy.
QB1. Well, not the QB1, sorry. A QB1 in 2025.
Back on one, and I like it. I love it. I like it. I love it. Let's move over to the running backs. And I think for the running backs, just for time purposes, I will name all of them and we can just have an open discussion about the running backs and how we feel about them in fantasy. Yeah, how y'all feel about that one? All right. Now, with the Arizona Cardinals, obviously we got the good, the great, the how would you say? You can never really go if it's not broken and you don't fix it. Mr. James Conner, who I feel like he's always a good, sturdy running back to have in fantasy. And then with the 49ers, of course, we got CMC. He returns potential redemption in 2025. Seahawks, Kenneth Walker III as their starter. And then you got the Rams with Kenneth Walker. The starting running backs for these teams, who are y'all liking the most in the NFC West? Ben, I'm going to let you go first.
It's got to be CMC at 1. To me, I'm feeling very good about him coming into the season. I think, I actually just covered this on another podcast about CMC coming back from injury and investing him in best ball. And I think I look at it the same way as I would with redraft. I think, people are buying in at the 106, potentially even more, depending on how good you feel about him this season. And I think he's going to smash. I mean, I've been watching the camp hype. He hasn't missed a practice. He's fully recovered off the Achilles tendonitis, in my opinion. And the PCL injury was nothing to be concerned about. I think CMC is the guy you need.
It sounds good until you see that first report. CMC tweaks his, oh my God, I just can't. You're going to go into the corner. You're going to start crying. That's what's going to happen.
You won't know until 30 minutes before the game, so.
Yeah, that's how the 49ers like to play that shit out. You really don't know. He done tore his whole ACL. You didn't find out until week 4. Shit pissed me off. But no, Rocco, who is your favorite running back in the NFC West?
I think it's very easily CMC. I mean, he's been a league winner for basically his whole career on a shitty team and on the 49ers. So, I mean, he's the best pass catcher in the league. He's money in the red zone. He could score 28 touchdowns, any given year. And I think this year they're going to, I wouldn't say totally lean on him, but you can see they're building up towards another monster season for CMC. I mean, they have Garendo and they have an interesting guy in Jordan James. But none of those guys are going to take any type of workload away from CMC. I mean, Mason's out the door, so he's no longer a threat at all. Garendo has his own injury concern.
Yeah, he's nicked up.
Who's that?
Yeah, Garendo's nicked up.
Yeah, he's always hurt. He's, if you want to really talk about, somebody with injury problems, Garendo's got some fucking injury problems. But, yeah, I mean, the thing that's happened most often throughout his career with CMC is probably going to happen again. He's going to be a league winner again. And people that faded him all the way up till the last few weeks of the season, because now he's going in the first round of redraft, and all those people that gave up their CMC for a single first or less, they feel real fucking stupid right now because CMC is going to win people leagues again. And it's an easy answer that you proposed.
No, I'm not mad at that because honestly, I have very much acquired CMC for just that 2026 first, and people ran to that bitch, accepted this quickly. Now, people ain't trying to hear that shit, y'all. They say, what? You trying to get CMC just for a first? Fuck out of here. Right. I'm not that. It's not going. Now, I don't understand what changed. Maybe it's just because of the videos, but I'm not seeing what changed from the beginning of the offseason to now. If you were on the CMC train, you should have been on the CMC train. But I haven't sold any of my. He was already on my team, I haven't sold because I felt like the value wasn't where I wanted for the caliber of
that would be like the worst feeling of seller's remorse. It's like sell him and then watch him be the RB1 next year.
I'm telling you, You're going to cry in the corner. You might quit a couple fantasy leagues, and I'm gonna call you out on it. I'm gonna keep a buck. Now, if we're looking at a couple handcuffs, right? And before we get on the handcuffs, just because it's relevant, Kyron Williams got a new 3-year deal with the
Fuck
Rams.
Kyron Williams.
I knew you were gonna
Man,
say that, Rocco. And
that deal
I'm
is so
all
misleading.
That's how I feel about Kyron Williams as well. But
Eh,
he's still
Hey,
relevant. And
have you heard the rumor though? Have you heard the rumor?
That's it.
Have you heard the good news?
that he could be
I've been seeing it.
he might be getting shipped out to the Cowboys or some dumb shit like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Put some kind of package involved in Micah Parsons.
Stupid ass.
Yes.
We're not
You
getting that.
have a running back. You won't have to all those scrubs. You'll have a badass running back.
That would be worse
Yeah,
than
but-
Luka, man.
Rocking out here. And y'all know how I'm goddamn rocking out here. Fucking playing with me.
Because that's what you need to do. Trade your best player for a fucking running back.
Okay.
A slow,
That's basically the
a
Luka
slow,
trade.
unathletic running back.
So with Kyron in 2025, he finishes, true or false, he finishes as a top 10 running back in fantasy.
Fuck no.
False.
He doesn't have a quarterback.
That means
Yeah,
they're
I
gonna
think that's
cut-
really the biggest part of it. Like if Stafford's out, I think Kyron's efficiency goes down, and I do think Chargwis Hunter and Blake Corum are going to eat into his usage.
And now we can talk about handcuffs because now we get talk about Blake Corum, who we are still waiting for the Rams to give some type of. And I guess that kind of, if you're a Blake Corum owner, him getting that contract made you cry a little bit. But then also drafting Jarquez Hunter probably made you cry as well. So it's all in the same kind of group. I have a few shares of Jarquez Hunter. I probably don't have enough, but I wanted to go a few other directions rather than Hunter. But then you also, like I said, Blake Corum. For the 49ers, you have Garendo. I was never really on the hill of Garendo, but somebody who I will stash, he needs to fix his fumbling, because that's why I heard has been the biggest critique of him in camp, is Corey Kiner. Keep your eyes on Corey Kiner. That's the stash that I personally like pre-draft.
This
Post-draft,
forced tackle god.
yeah, he's a force, and he was the guy who makes people miss. Now, post-draft, I was like, there's a lot of bodies. His path to carries or path to shares just isn't there right now, but I didn't expect for the whole San Francisco 49ers running back group to like literally get fucked when it comes to injuries. So, nevertheless, I like him. Kenneth Walker, I feel like risk tolerance. It depends on if you believe he will not get hurt throughout the season. That's a big risk. Me and Rocco, y'all know how we feel about our boy. We've gone out this offseason to acquire him once again for a 2026 first, because he can be a league winner when healthy. And we do believe the Seahawks are going to be a run first team. So the path to the dark horse kind of, if everything goes well, and I could believe in a world where someone said Kenneth Walker finished as RB1. I can see a world and a very dark horse. I feel he's very
He has the
underrated.
talent.
So
If he plays 17 games, he'll be a top 5 running back.
top 5, I'm telling you, Kenneth
I don't
Walker
disagree with that.
So go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. It's funny because I think Rocco has seen me go on and basically probably feels that I'm a Ken Walker hater, and I'm not. I fucking hate him because he destroyed my college team. But at the end of the day, he is an extremely talented running back and has top 5 potential. But we just need to say, like just like Rocco said, see him play a 17-game season, and I'm in. But he's already dinged up at camp. Already the same injury that we've been seeing with him with ankle foot injury. I hope that he could start the season. And I think as long as he rehabs it right during camp right now, he'll hopefully be back week 1. But I just don't want to take the shot. I do think that he's worth more than a 26 first, depending on where that first lands. If it's a late first, I would definitely feel comfortable throwing that at Kenneth Walker if I'm a competing team. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Kenneth Walker.
I carry big nuts over here. I like to take risks, so I'll take that. I'll take that little pain if he doesn't turn out. But if he does turn up, I promise y'all won't hear the last of me. Now, I feel like the answer for this is universal, but the running back that we're buying in the NFC West seems like to be CMC, correct?
Correct.
All right. Which running back in the NFC West are we fading?
You already said his name.
Kyron
Kyron
Williams.
Williams.
Okay. I feel like, don't disrespect the Kyron Williams. And which one are you holding on to at the moment? Or looking to trade away if you needed it to?
I think this one just goes in the hand of talking about Kenneth Walker, but Zach Charbonnet. As much as I hate to say it, like he will put up production for you if Kenneth Walker misses time, and he is a great cuff.
So would you rather stash him at the moment, or?
I'd say stash. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if you're a Kenneth Walker, if you have him as your running back in any of your lineups, you should have Charbonnet somewhere. If you don't have Charbonnet, go get yourself some Damian Martinez right now. Right now. Y'all know how big we were on Damian Martinez pre-draft and even post-draft, because I still felt like the path there. Because once again, we hope Kenneth Walker stays healthy, but you also got to be realistic, and it could be where he does get hurt. I like Damian Martinez more than I like Zach Charbonnet, but that's just personally me. Now, let's move over to tight ends. And before we move over to tight ends, just remember that this episode is brought to you by Fast Draft, the fastest best ball platform out there, where they're trying to put cash money in your pocket. Munyan, confetti, cheddar, Parmigiano. I'm trying to think of all the cheeses out there. God damn it! They're trying to put money in your pocket, my G. And if you use our promo codes,
cheese heads,
I'm trying to tell you, they'll double your first deposit up to $50. I repeat, using either one of our promo codes, Force or Fourth, they'll double your first deposit up to $50. Now, let's talk about tight ends, because I feel like this is also a very interesting topic. I think there's obviously one king in the NFC West, and that's Mr. George Kittle himself. And I do have him in quite a few of my leagues, because I think Rocco also said this. He could be the front runner as tight end 1 in 2025. You hear me? So when I'm looking at George Kittle, I feel like in redraft, there's no reason why you're not selected him high, because who cares? Who gives a damn about age at that point? Dynasty wise, you still should be selecting him, but not before like the likes of like Trey McBride. But I still feel like he has value, especially in tight end premium, and then even more with how the injuries are looking right now in San Fran, and him being basically the healthiest pass catcher at this very moment. Now, looking at him, George Kittle, I feel like I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because one could argue George Kittle, Trey McBride, who's the real dog. But Ben, how do you feel about that? Who do you feel like in the NFC West is the top dog?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. As far as in redraft, I'd take George Kittle over Trey McBride. In Dynasty, obviously, Trey McBride is going much earlier in startup drafts and holds a little bit more value, but I think Kittle is a much easier tight end to obtain for a contending team. Mm-hmm. And there's only been 2 seasons in his career where he has finished outside of the top tight end 5. Last year, he finished as a tight end 3. Year before, finished as a tight end 3 or tight end 2. Like, this guy is putting up numbers, and he consistently does it even at the age of 31. So there is no reason to fade George Kittle. I think he is the king of the tight end for the NFC West in 2025. Beyond that, if you're playing Dynasty, I have no problem with you saying Trey McBride, but this year it's got to be George Kittle.
George Kittle is worth a what in tight end premium this year? What would you feel comfortable sending out to get George Kittle?
Depending on the scoring, if it's 0.75 or full tight end premium, I'm saying 2 first.
You are, and I should say, but I also feel like this is obvious, because if you are a rebuilding team, you're probably not going to go get George Kittle. But as a contender, you said you would feel good sending out that first?
Sending out at least a first. I think Kittle brings a heavier cost than I wouldn't be sending away George Kittle if I'm. I mean, I think first plus, right? I think 2 firsts is tough to give up. I think that's what really the max cost I'd have to spend for Kittle would be. But, something like Trey Harrison a first for George Kittle, I think that's something that could possibly get the deal done.
Yeah. And Rocco, how do you feel about that one with our boy Kittle? Like, would you, if you were buying him, if you're a contender, you're sending out that 2026 first?
Fuck yeah. I mean, that's easy. You like to win money? Yeah, I'd send out a first. You probably have to send out a first, and I think a first in one of this year's rookie crop of tight ends, if you could find the one that your trading partner likes, whether it be a Terrence Ferguson, Harold Fannin Jr., Arroyo, somebody at that ilk, not Mason Taylor, obviously, because you'll get blocked right away. They'll never talk to you again about that trade. But yeah, I think that's the move because I'm kind of, if I feel like I'm a championship contender, I'm not putting as much weight into the 2026 picks. And I know, there's some pushback lately in the community, but if it's gonna push me over the top, then I'm not too worried about the 2026 picks. Yeah, I'm sure I'm sending that out for George Kittle all day, every day. He is finally lined up to get that, Rob Gronkowski, that Travis Kelce, that Tony Gonzalez. We can see his true ceiling this year. And if you look at it, he's only missed 7 games in the last 4 years after he got that stem cell treatment. Shout out to Jeff Mueller, which is, the same type of deal that CMC went for. So he's been pretty much healthy for the last 4 years, because I think people still think that he's injury prone, but that's just not true over the last 4 years. I mean, he's played in 14 games or better, I believe, in all 4 years. So, I'm all the way in on George Kittle. I think he's going to outproduce Brock Bowers. He's going to outproduce Trey McBride. And he's going to be the tight end 1. And you want to give up whatever it costs to get him if he's that final piece.
And go ahead and answer our boy Crispy's question. You sending a 2027 first for Kittle on a contender?
I am. If it's all it's taking you is a 27 first, absolutely.
I'm not fucking doing it. I'm not sending.
I'm doing it.
27. I'm not sending none of my 27 first. I'm
sending that shit.
I'm hoarding all of my 27.
That scared money ain't gonna win you no money.
That is scared money, man.
2027 is a very rare year for me.
I could get those 27s back if I'm a contender. I can get those in season or in the off season.
For 2026, I'm with you on that. 2027, I'm out. But also in 2027, we could all be gone and the earth is wiped off the face of the earth. So, and you just never know. Now, with the
Ben?
I was just gonna say, like, we're putting a lot of stock in the 27 for the 27 class.
Oh, yeah, I'm
extremely talented class, but we're projecting 2 years out right now, and a lot can change in college football in that time. I mean, we saw Ashton Genty basically not even really on a lot of people's radar as the 101 prior to last season, and he ended up being the consensus 101 last year. I mean, I guarantee Jeremiah Smith is going to be basically 101 guaranteed. If anything changes, I mean, we'll see, but I really don't care about a 27 first. Give me George Kittle on a contender. I'm going to win the championship and give me some money, just like Rocco's saying.
See, I'd rather just keep that first and then probably just send out a second to go get my boy Evan Ingram, or for people who aren't high on Jake Ferguson, go get him. But
that's why you finishing short in them leagues.
Hey, listen, we won numbers. We won numbers last year. The pockets wasn't hurt. But
I talk all that shit, man. When it's time to win that money, I'm gonna do what I have to do.
Now, I think the Seahawks probably have the most unproven situation, if you ask me. Like, I mean, next to I guess the LA Rams, right?
Yeah.
With but with the Seahawks, they have AJ Barner, they have Arroyo, our guy, and they've basically raved about Arroyo all types of offseason, where they said they're going to use him across all the formations, inline, outside, you know, basically kind of just a slot, you name it. So with Elijah Arroyo, I guess right now I'm not really buying Barner because he was on a lot of waivers anyway as a pickup. The earth is wiped off the face of the earth.
I do know enough about Barner from his college days that I don't think it translates to the NFL. And funny enough, actually, I got Blake Corum behind me here, and it's the same thing for him too, right? Like, I just didn't see those guys translating at the next level, but I think Loveland's a little bit different.
I think with AJ Barner, and if you go back and look at their time together when Loveland was on the team, Barner was more used as the blocker, where Loveland was a better receiver. That's where I think he will be used in Seattle. He will be, because they want to run the ball, so he's going to very much be in there. Not to say that Arroyo can't block, but I think Barner is better in that category.
He's got the capital on Arroyo.
That is, yeah, very much true. And if I'm true, if I'm somebody, honestly, I don't think you could really, unless you're looking to overpay, because his value, people love an athletic tight end and a young one at that. I wouldn't be looking to buy him just because I feel like people are gonna be like, oh, I'll shoot a second for Arroyo because I feel decently on how he is. Now,
Yeah,
I would feel more on a third. I would want to do a third, but people ain't doing it for a third.
I'm not going to sell him for a third. I think a second's still a good deal, though.
I think what the sexy thing about Arroyo is that he's the only guy that has size in that receiving weapon group that can work, the middle of the field. So, once Jalen Milroe gets in there, he'll have a nice big target over the middle of the field.
And then, as a tight end that Rocco has absolutely loved talking about throughout the draft cycle, Terrence Ferguson. How are we feeling about him? I don't think he's the bona fide. He will eventually end up the tight end one for the Rams, but I honestly don't know how to feel about. Once again, it's the LA Rams. We don't know how to feel about Matthew Stafford at the moment. Are you not buying anybody currently? Are you touching nobody? Well, first of all, you shouldn't be touching nobody. But are you? Who are you looking? Did Terrence Ferguson quickly with this Matthew Stafford news come somebody who you rather just, if you haven't done a draft yet, you're going Fannin instead? I'm gonna let you answer that.
I'm really unsure with Terrence Ferguson. He's kind of the biggest wild card in the division for me. And I think that goes back to just he had very little college production, that I think he ended up having won his last season in Oregon with a season over around 500 yards. Granted, I think he has the athleticism to be able to do something at the next level, as he showed by the highest RAS score within his class. But I also live based off the college production. And to shout out another show host in here, in Dustin here with the Debbie Dojo, I trust my training. I just didn't see enough at the college level, the college production for him to trust it, right? And we'll see. It's a wild card, but I'm not really putting my eggs in that basket compared to Arroyo.
Okay, I can 100% agree, shoot on your side on that one. And once again, I think it all depends on what we see from Matthew Stafford, right? And also, it kind of depends on what we see from Sam Darnold as well. It's not like I don't want to throw him into the automatic basket. Now, let's move over to our most fun part, right? Ranking these guys. Who has the worst tight end situation in the NFC West?
It's got to be the Rams. I mean, because you easily clearly have the 1 and 2 in Arizona and San Francisco.
I'm not really big on Higbee. And then who was the other tight end for the Rams? Davis, I believe his last name is.
Tyler Higbee.
Davis Allen.
Thank you, Allen was his last name. Irrelevant.
Yeah. They got some gritty tight ends, some lunch pail type of guys.
Some tall motherfuckers.
They work hard.
Now, who would y'all rank as the third tight end situation in the NFC West? Ben, I'll let you go.
To the Seahawks. Yeah.
How about you, Rocco?
I'm gonna flip flop. I like Ferguson a little bit better as a prospect. I didn't like really what I saw from Arroyo. I just thought that he didn't really show much over the middle of the field. As far as in contestant situations, I know Mike said he saw it in Mobile, but I watched the whole season's worth of tape, and we talk about a guy that has no production. I mean, Arroyo, him and Ferguson, fighting for that title of very limited production. With them, it's all about the size, speed, athleticism component. And I trust the Rams front office to draft well and to mine talent in the draft a little bit better than Seattle's front office. So it may be, just kind of a take, not a player take, but an organizational take. But I did like some of the stuff I saw from Ferguson as well, in the limited tape that he had. So it's splitting hairs, but I like Ferguson a little bit better. Arroyo may slightly outperform, but I don't think either of them will be worth starting in 2025.
Who would you say between Arizona Cardinals and
Sound. Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. So
sound like you're underwater.
Okay. So who, with the last two spots, who is the second ranked tight end situation in the NFC West? Ben.
This is so hard because, to me, Trey McBride is a dog. He's gonna be top 5 any year, right? But I gotta give it to the Cardinals because I love how much George Kittle is looking in 2025.
Ooh, and then that leaves the number one spot. Kittle, 2025, your tight end 1. And I think for a lot of people would agree with you, Ben. And also I think Rocco would agree with you.
I agree. Just look at some of the target totals he's had in the last few years. 94, 86, 90, 94. And that has got him 900 yards, 765 in the last 2 years, over 1,000 yards. Give that man 120, 130. Give him 120, 130 targets and let that man cook. There's no reason for him to have less than 100 targets in the year of 2025. Let that man have the season he was destined to have. He's a great blocker, but fuck blocking. Blocking doesn't win fantasy championships. Get that man 12, 13, 1,400 yards in 2025. He can make it happen.
Do that shit. Now, let's move over to my favorite group, as I always say. The wide receivers, baby. And let's start off with the Arizona motherfucking Cardinals, which is absolutely a pile of shit behind Marvin Harrison Jr. as their wide receiver 1. We have Michael Wilson. We have Simi Fehoko. We have Greg Dortch.
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones. Yeah, fuck Zay Jones.
Zay Jones has been in the news. He's having a connection. He's trying to rebuild his career ever since he was running down the hotel naked and tried to jump out of a window many years ago.
Now I got the microphone here. Listen. Here. I don't give a fuck if they had a Love Island connection, my boy. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck. I'm not messing with no guy.
Zay Jones, wide receiver 1 of the Cardinals.
I'm about to crash out.
No, we are not doing that, Rocco.
Man, they write love notes to each other in the media.
Right now, listen, Marvin Harrison Jr. has been nicked up. And right now, people are trying to gauge how they're supposed to feel about him heading into the season. Are they supposed to feel good about having Marvin Harrison Jr.? And listen, I'm on the record of saying that one of my hot takes of the year, he will outscore Malik Neighbors for the year. I don't know how I'm feeling right now about that take, but
Man, drugs.
listen, Marvin Harrison Jr., Ben, how do you feel about his fantasy outlook in Dynasty in 2025?
I know Rocco is not going to like this take at all, but I am projecting a top 10 season for Marvin Harrison Jr. in the wide receiver position. And, for me, I just think I'm projecting that things hopefully change for the Cardinals and that they really do what they need to do and focus on getting Marv the ball. Man, he's been mossing people in training camp. He needs to get the separation, but they need to really open up his route tree rather than those go routes, deep balls. Kyler was missing on him. It just wasn't happening last year. I think that changes this year.
What about you? I mean, I feel like we already know how you feel about him, but voice your how you feel.
I can't shit on him anymore. My take is well known. I think I went viral with the hate comments that I got on my TikTok. But I think it was a little bit taken out of context. It wasn't so much that I hate Marvin Harrison Jr. It was more that I really love that wide receiver grouping of 2024. And a lot of those guys fully produced in 2024, year one. So that kind of portends to them having a great career. And I just don't really trust the Cardinals. I don't know. It's just something boring about the Cardinals, the way they run their offense. And he has more competition basically than any of those other guys have in Trey McBride, who's basically a number one receiving target on that team. So, there's a path, if Kyler Murray can increase his efficiency throwing the ball and have just a little bit more passing yards in 2025. And basically it's just McBride and it's Marvin Harrison Jr. and basically nobody else gets much of anything. If he does that, then yeah, he could have a top 10 season. He could have a hot top 10 season and still have, the fifth best receiving numbers of the 2024 class. That's what's crazy about that class. But yeah, I think he'll be good eventually. I just don't know if they'll work it out in 2025 because what they did in 2024 was abysmal.
And then looking at the San Francisco 49ers wide receivers, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Jacob Cowing, Robinson, Ricky Pearsall. I'm not very high on the San Francisco. Mind you, I have a good – before Juwan Jennings messed up his calf, I felt like really good that this was going to be his wide receiver 1 year because I don't think IU is going to be the same, at least until midseason, if he ever does return back to regular form.
I have a question, if you don't mind me, if Rocco, going to cut in real quick. Isn't a calf injury something that could lead to an Achilles pop? Because I think that's what happened with Halliburton. He was fighting that calf, for a few games, and then all of a sudden, it just gave. I don't know if that's something that's in the medical industry, but I think I've seen that before.
Yeah, so this is something that's like developing even more now in professional sports than in years past, and it just has to do a lot with load management and just how much we're pushing our athletes to take it to the next level and continue to specialize from an early age, right? Like we're talking a lot of these guys are playing in Pee Wee football in 4th grade, and basically continuing to just put more load and more miles on themselves, right? Like I think that's why I'm cautious with Saquon Barkley this year. I think he's going to be fine, but like when you put more miles on the tires there, like there is a concern that a calf strain can really be on the spectrum of being a minor calf strain, as we saw. Actually, if you pay attention enough with college football, DJ Lagway has been dealing with a calf strain in practice this summer, and so people were worried. Oh, he's going to possibly get an Achilles tear, and it's going to be over. And that is not the concern when you're talking about an athlete that's much later in their career, 27, 28, that's played years of their craft. And they've had also years of time where they've been dealing with some of these injuries. That's the point where we worry about potentially that athlete getting an Achilles tear. But it doesn't just happen, within a few weeks of like, hey, they've been noticing some calf pain, and now we're worried. Because we saw with Christian McCaffrey last year, it was truly Achilles tendonitis. There was no issue with an Achilles tear for him. It definitely, sparked some concern. And he was going overseas to get some stem cell treatment, a higher dosage than what is allowed in the United States to be able to help with him during that time. But, I think in the case of, because we were talking, who is this in regards to, Garaka?
This was in regards to Juwan Jennings.
Yeah. I'm unsure with Juwan Jennings. I haven't heard like any crazy news outside of him having the calf strain, right? If it was more of a calf tear, but he is an older wide receiver. Yeah. And the other thing too is positionally, I worry more about a running back than I do a wide receiver. So, I think we just take the news for what it is, and we expect it's a calf strain until we're told otherwise. But I'm not feeling great about Juwan Jennings.
I mean, shit. If we're looking at just the wide receiver core in general for San Fran, I'm not the person who has bought Ayuk, but I know there's a lot of people out there that's buying the dip on Ayuk and just hoping that he returns back into shape mid to end year. Have you?
I'm on that train.
Yeah, I was about to say, Ben or Rafa, have you all bought the dip this year on Ayuk?
I've not bought it personally, but I can understand buying it depending on what price you're getting him at. And knowing that likely he probably won't be fantasy relevant for your team until about at least week 4.
And is Ricky Pearsall somebody who we're liking in 2025 to step up to that wide receiver 1 role for San Fran?
I don't know that I think he could definitely get some pop in the early season, and then when Ayuk comes back, I think that he's likely going to fade to kind of being the wide receiver 2 of the team.
Are we still stashing Jacob Cowing?
I think it's a stash.
Yeah, I mean, if I got room, if no sexy, player lands on waivers, if they do, then yeah, I'm gonna kick him right on his ass right out the door.
Now, looking at the Seahawks wide receivers, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Cooper Kupp, our boy Torrey Horton, Reggie White, Bobo. Who, first off, his last name pisses me off, but we're gonna leave that there, because why is your last name Bobo, and where does that originate from?
If Bobo didn't run a 4.8, man, he'd be awesome.
But how we feel about, and once again, I think this is all dependent on how you feel about Sam Darnold. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, you can consider 2024 as his coming out breakout year. Are we hoping that he can replicate that in 2025 or ascend what he did from last year? And then looking at Cooper Kupp, what are we looking at him at this stage of his career? Is he somebody who you're kind of just hoping to get what you get? He hasn't really been able to stay healthy for a full season for the last few years. So what is your full, layout or view of the Seahawks wide receiver core? Are there guys that you're rostering on your team? Me personally, I don't see myself, or haven't seen myself, rostering a lot of Cooper Kupp. And I have a few shares of Jackson Smith-Njigba just because I like a lot of Ohio State prospects, but particularly their receivers. They transition fairly well into the NFL. But when I'm looking at that overall core, except for Torrey Horton, he's absolutely a stash for me. And if we're talking about if we had to name top 3 or top 5 guys that we're super happy that we were able to acquire on the waiver wire, Torrey Horton would definitely be one of the guys that I name. But Ben, how are you feeling about the wide receiver core for the Seahawks?
I'll just start from the top and kind of work my way to the bottom, because I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is the wide receiver 1 for that team, and I have no concern in him being able to produce in 2025, and I'm feeling even better about his dynasty value in regards to further years down the road. Now, as far as Cooper Kupp goes, like, I'm not going to treat him like I would a Devontae Adams, of course, barring Matthew Stafford injury, but I'm not spending a first on Cooper Kupp. I'm spending a second or a third, possibly, depending on what I can get him for, but no more than that. If it's a late second, I feel okay spending that on Cooper Kupp, but it's basically your rental for him. As far as the wide receiver 3 for the team, I do love the idea of Torrey Horton being the wide receiver 3 for that team. I think he's a better athlete than Jake Bobo. And I think, him and Ricky White coming in, I liked Ricky White's tape too at UNLV, but
Agreed.
I think Torrey Horton is the guy that's going to take over that wide receiver 3 spot.
Yeah, I'm not spending any money on Kupp. I think, if he would have had anything left in the tank, he would have showed it with the Rams, and the Rams are a very smartly run organization, and if they couldn't get anything for him, and they couldn't find a spot for that team after all he's, done for that team and with that team, former champion with that team, then I think he just doesn't have anything left. I mean, he looks, his look is like a guy that's not playing football anymore. He's got like the scraggly hair, so I don't think he's got much left. And the weird thing with that team is it seems like, Jackson Smith plays best in the slot, Cooper plays best in the slot, and you also got Arroyo who looks like he would be best, playing a little bit off the line and not blocking much and going into routes. So, that leaves opportunity for your guy Torrey Horton and possibly Ricky White to play some on the outside. But I just don't trust any of those other guys outside of Jackson Smith. I feel like Darnold will be able to prop up Jackson Smith behind, another 135, 140 targets. So I think he's safe. As far as his production, I just don't trust basically anybody else in that receiving core, at least not in 2025.
I can feel that. And last but not least, because once again, health dependent, but LA Rams receiver core is actually pretty strong, starting at the top. Mr. Puka himself, who honestly, if I'm being just keeping the buck with y'all, just where you have to select them. I'm not selecting Puka. I like some guys more over him. I like Drake London over him. I like Brian Thomas over Puka. I'm going those directions every single time. I'm just going to be honest with you. But they got Puka. They got Devontae Adams. They got Jordan Whittington. They have Tutu Atwell. Trying to think of the other guys.
That's all they got.
That are pretty relevant in that.
Yeah.
And Puka, like I said, I'm not buying Puka because he already has a value, and I'm not sending a first for Puka. Not to say he's not worth a first or multiple firsts.
He's worth 3 probably.
I'm telling you, he's worth those first.
He's a second round pick.
I don't want to send him from Puka. I'd rather just go for somebody else. And maybe it's just my little bias against Puka. I just like some other guys and their overall prospects more than Puka. But
I actually have to say this though, Huncho. This is actually the perfect time if Stafford gets hurt. It opens up a great buying window for Puka.
You agree. I 100% agree. If you're somebody who really loves Puka, go out now and get him because people are panicking. That's literally people are panicking. If I wasn't so cool and collected, I would have shipped out Devontae Adams out of all my leagues. But I'm too player for that. I'm too player for that. We don't panic when things get a little rowdy. We like when things get a little squirrely, but we're gonna have to wait for some more news to come up before I start sending out panic selling anybody. Because then people just want it. Then you're selling it for chips on the dollar. I'm not doing that. But Devontae Adams is somebody who I've sent out and felt comfortable before the Stafford news, sending out a late 2026 first, and even acquired him for like a second, for 2 seconds in some places, and feel even better. And me and Rocco are both on record for saying that we thought that Matthew Stafford would have a 5,000 yard passing yard season with both him and Devontae Adams Devontae and Puka having like 1,300 plus receiving yards for the season. Now that's looking a little scary, but I'm somebody who still feels, or I'm not ready to jump off the wagon just yet. Now we still got a few more weeks to see how Matthew Stafford comes back, to see how things turn up. If he starts to practice, if he starts to be able to throw, how does he look when he throws? Does it look like he's about to cry every time he lets the ball go? Those are the things that I want to look for, right? But if now let's rank the wide receiver cores for the NFC West, and I feel like this might be probably the easiest one. Who has the last ranked wide receiver core in the NFC West?
Yeah, I think it's got to be at that point. But with the injuries where they stand right now, it bounced between the 49ers and the Seahawks.
I'm going to say the Seahawks because I don't like anybody on that receiving core outside of Jackson Smith.
I was actually surprised that Rocco, you wasn't going to shit on the Cardinals and Marvin Harrison one time and say,
oh, they next.
He said they coming.
They next. If it wasn't for Zay Jones, they would be fourth.
So, how about you, Ben? Rocco has his third team as the Cardinals. Yeah. Who do you have?
I would put the Seahawks then fourth as well. I'm probably going to go the 49ers because, I do have the hope for Pearsall. I think Ayuk does come back, like first quarter, at the end of the first quarter of the season, midway through the season, and then starts to show out as, the wide receiver one of this team. But, I am a believer in Marvin Harrison. Outside of him, though, that's where I kind of battle of putting them at number 3 because who do they have outside of Marvin Harrison with Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, and
Greg the Torch.
Greg Dortch.
Greg the Torch
Dortch.
Greg the Torch Dortch.
I can't tell you how many times I picked him up and dropped
Cardinals
him.
3. I'm put Cardinals 3. Not because I'm trying to agree with Rocco, but just because I can't put anybody outside of Marv, man.
All right, I like that. Number 2 spot for you, Ben.
I'm gonna put the 49ers there. I do love the love on Pearsall.
Yeah, I mean it's easily the 49ers. If Ayuk came back, if Ayuk was back to start the season, it may be a different story because I like some of the parts, but with all of the parts kind of banged up, and we don't really know when they'll come back healthy, and their best receiver being actually a tight end, I'm going to go with them at number 2. But they can definitely build their way back up, once they get healthy. But at this moment, for the 2025 season, they're number 2.
And with that being said, I would take the number 1 team for both of you. Would it be the LA Rams?
Yeah, I mean, they got
Puka,
2 number 1 wide receivers. Right.
I had Puka at wide receiver 1 if Stafford was healthy, the wide receiver 1. But I'm not feeling so great about that now.
How high do you think he could realistically finish with Jimmy Garoppolo starting the whole season? I think Hunter's about to pass
wide
out.
Receiver 1 numbers. I think he's still going to be a safe bet for wide receiver.
Before we even continue, you said, I just need you to clarify this, brother.
Yeah.
before we move on, you said Puka before the Matthew Stafford injury was wide receiver 1.
To me, I saw the upside of him being the wide receiver 1 in the NFL. I can see how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's going to be Stetson Bennett. Hey, you know how I feel about my dog. Speak up. You know how I feel about my G. Come on, Omar. You know how I feel about my G. Yo, Stetson Bennett going to take him to a Super Bowl, baby. Fuck you talking about?
Hey, just kind of, piggybacking off of Ben's point, Puka Nacua led yards per route run by a wide margin. He was the only guy over 3, according to PFF, 3.23. Next closest was Nico Collins, followed by A.J. Brown at 2.61. So we're talking about almost a half a point better than the third place finisher in yards per route run. That just goes to show you every time he's getting in route, he's getting the ball, he's making things happen. And I still believe he has a little bit of touchdown upside because I don't think that's a very sticky statistic, and he's been low in his touchdown totals his first 2 years. I don't see any reason why he can't do the same thing in the end zone.
I do.
It makes no sense why he can't. It's kind of like that thing where, like,
per game.
Yeah. I mean, he played a very partial season. He still was pushing for 1,000 yards. But yeah, I have no doubt that he can score touchdowns. I think it's just like one of those things, like, it's like Julio Jones didn't have like as many touchdowns as a lot of guys, in his peer group, but he was probably the best out of most of those guys. It's just one of those weird things where he hasn't scored a lot of touchdowns to start his career.
Before I ask my next question, I will give Puka the benefit of the doubt of just saying that he is good. But Drake London's better. Hear me out. Now,
Drake London didn't do what Puka did his first 2 years.
I don't give a fuck.
Drake London could also be the wide receiver 1 this year.
No.
Follow those targets, bro. Whoever gets the most targets in that group going to be the wide receiver 1.
We're gonna get a T-shirt made of that. Follow the targets, literally. Brought to you by Rocco himself. Now, who out of the wide receivers in the NFC West is your number 1 buy?
I think for the price, and if you're playing Dynasty,
as a contender,
I'm fine. As a contender.
And I would do both. Let's do both contender. I'll ask you contender, and then you can give me yours for a rebuilder.
I actually bought Marv as a contender this year. I said was Trey Harris and 2 firsts for Marvin Harrison and Aaron Jones, and I felt pretty safe. I felt pretty good about that.
I would feel pretty good about that one. Feel real good about that one. And you said Marvin Harrison would be your choice for the receiver you're buying in 2025.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm gonna let him lose a little more value, and I'm gonna buy after the 26th, going into the 26th season when he'll have his true breakout. Our guy Omar Diaz likes Pearsall, and I almost said Pearsall, but I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of Ben's earlier comment that I think right now is a great buying opportunity for Puka Nacua, and you could have, potentially if Stafford's back injury isn't as bad as we think it is, or I mean that team could bottom out and they could be picking, a Garrett Nussmeier in 2026. And then they just kind of restart the whole thing up with a 22-year-old quarterback. So I think if I can get Puka for 2 first-round picks right now, I think that's a screaming buy.
They have 2 first-rounders, right?
They do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They do. And that's
they're going to use that to get Parsons, huh?
And that, okay, bro, you're about to piss me off. But when I say if with McVay, he will send those first round picks quickly before the Rams suck. All right, I'm just going to tell that now. So if Matthew Stafford isn't ready to go, and y'all say Puka is somebody who you would be buying and to buy the dip or take advantage of the panic, Devontae Adams is somebody who I would continue to buy because I still think he can still produce. And like I said, they go out and they will go out and acquire a quarterback if they need to before they chalk the season up to sucking. To be honest with you, so
Buy another dip, because now
yeah, buy another.
You could get him for, you just mentioned 2 seconds, and I still feel okay about 2 seconds for Devontae Adams. But could you get him for a second plus a dart throw player? I'll take that.
I'm telling you, throw him for shit. After the first pregame, a second in Tesla. See if someone want to play around with that. Honestly, I feel like that's a good view. Now,
A second and Torrey Horton.
Also another one.
A second in
How long
Jaden
until
Blue.
he can't play?
Which one of the
Definitely Jaden Blue. Get rid of Jalen Blue.
Which one of the receivers in the NFC West are we fading? Ben.
Yeah. I'm probably Well, I mean, you mentioned Cooper Kupp, but I don't know that. I think the market is fairly smart right now with Cooper Kupp. I don't think that people are very high on him at this point. But I'd probably have to say let's just go Cooper Kupp. I just think, outside of the other guys, I really don't find a harder sell than Cooper Kupp.
I can get sexy with that one. And who are we stashing in the NFC West? I feel like some of the that's like the bona fide go-to. Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing. I feel like any receiver in that 49ers group now.
Greg Dortch.
Greg the Torch Dortch. Put him on. Say that if you do have any room on your space, I feel like he wouldn't even be taxi eligible at this point. I could be wrong unless your whole setting.
I picked that some bitch up so many times and dropped him the next week.
I think stash. I do like that people will ultimately forget only if you feel good about the Matthew Stafford injury. But Tutu Atwell or Jordan Weddington, I feel like for Jordan specifically, had a nice year, a very solid year to really move on and improve upon. And he is battling with Tutu Atwell for that wide receiver 3 spot. So he is somebody that I would continue to keep an eye on throughout training camp and preseason to see who wins that wide receiver 3 role in LA.
Yeah.
That being said, that has been our episode for the NFC West, where we went through the teams, quarterback, running back, tight end, and receivers, and looked at players that we personally liked, are fading, and looking to stash on our 2025 fantasy teams. And we were joined by the amazing, the great, the spectacular Big Mac from Dynasty Gambit, Mr. Ben himself. Thank you for joining this episode. Before we head out of here, what do you have to say to the audience, and let them know where they can find your content at, my brother?
Of course. Huncho, I want to say thank you to you guys for having me on. You guys have been a great addition to our space, once we connected. And Rocco, always active in the chat, in the Discord, and you guys have been awesome. You can find us at the Dynasty Gambit FF on X, as well as me, Dynasty Big Mac FF on X. Honestly, connect me for our other socials. We have a TikTok. We got our YouTube. We're actually with the FSA and Grindhouse, the newer channel as part of their lineup of things, with the Debbie Dojo, with Crazy's Corner, with some of our other great shows. And, we've been pumping out episodes, every other week. We really try to keep the content fresh and try to keep the content great for you guys to be able to hop in and find out ways that you can win your leagues. But we also got a free Discord, as I just kind of mentioned, where these guys are just helping our players, helping our members really win at the next level of being able to get deals done. I mean, we talk trades all the time, other things like that. So if you want to get connected, definitely reach out to me, DM me. Like I said, you can follow me on X at Dynasty Big Mac FF. It's been great on here, guys.
Love it, and Rocco. Before we go, you have anything for the viewers out there?
We are a fantasy football podcast for Dynasty sickos. By Dynasty sickos, but everybody is welcome.
And this has been Fourth and Fantasy. I'm Hancho, and this is my guy,
Rocco.
And we are your fantasy playbook to more championship wins. Thank you to all that support. Tap in with us. Once again, thank you, Ben, for joining us. Everyone, we hope you have an amazing day, night, what time you're viewing us. Till next time.